This is podcast 4.1 with Ethan. Ethan, welcome back.
Hello, hello. Thanks for
Hi,
having me.
you're welcome. So last time we did the podcast, you're still in school. You graduated. Congratulations. How do you feel?
Feels pretty surreal.
You feel like an
Definitely,
adult?
no, definitely not. I don't think any college student does, but or any fresh graduates ever feel like an adult like that right after. Yeah, I originally had some stuff set up with professor,
Hmm.
but then like he kind of ghosted me, kind of left me hanging.
Oh,
So the right thing to do would have been, maybe send one last ditch attempt follow-up email
uh-huh.
and then and just start doing my own project to make the
Hmm.
best use of my time.
Hmm.
Yeah, but my motivation died a lot. So
I
that was gonna
see.
happen.
You were kind of motivated when you come back. You were waking up early, and I think you were still doing a lot outside of projects. Of course, it's like it would be good to do a project, but we were meeting up a lot, I think.
Uh yeah, a little bit. But you were also working at that time.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. You rather this be a break
So
rather
okay,
than
so yeah. So I think something to discern is like what am I seeing as productive and
mm,
what am I seeing as like I guess a waste of time. And it's like I think I'm at a weird mental state right now that's like nothing I don't actually feel like anything I'm doing is productive in a sense. So it's like yeah, I know like objectively, right? Like okay, if I'm doing like this stuff, like if I'm gonna hang out with people, catch up with people,
mm,
maintain social relationships, like yeah, like
mm,
that's productive, right? Like you just look on that from the outside and think like that's productive, right?
mm,
But it's like I don't know, I'm kind of in a weird state where it's like anything I do, like cleaning or just like
mm,
emailing people,
mm,
updating LinkedIn or something, none of it actually feels productive to me. It's just like, yeah, it's just whatever. Like at the end of the day, I don't actually feel like I did anything still. It's like these are just things I did that are like I just have to do them, I guess. And I should.
right.
And it's like it's weird because it's like at the time. So like except for maybe like social relationships, like hanging out with people,
Mm,
like probably I feel pretty fulfilled like maybe like in the moment in a sense like yeah I should really hang out with someone. I should really go see them. It's been a while, right?
right.
And so it's like I'll feel like yeah, I should do that. I definitely should do that. And it's like it's just weird. It's just a weird feeling that like
Mm,
afterward it's like man, I hope like it's like was that even actually productive? But I don't know. It's
mm.
kind of a weird
I
state.
kind of get what you're saying. It's because like right after like college was yeah, well, college is structured, sort of like high school is very structured. College is structured, but then now that you're out of college, you lose that structure in a way. You're
Mm,
for the first time, you're actually kind of free to do whatever you
yeah.
want in life, right? So let's say hypothetically, like you got a job. You think that would make you feel more productive, or like you do the work and you're gonna feel like it's meaningless?
I think chances are it'd probably feel meaningless. Uh,
Uh-oh. Hopefully the job interviewers don't hear this part, right?
I think it's just kind of a means to an end, I guess. I
A
had
means
to,
to an end.
just get the money to survive, like
Mm,
get a,
mm.
living situation.
You don't want to find something you're passionate about, that
So
you uh-huh.
I I've considered like so I studied information systems in college and it's
Mm,
like it's kind of a very broad field. So it's like you
mm,
can go into a lot with that. Like it could be like project manager, data analyst, even some overlap with data science.
mm,
Um, but honestly, like I still remember like one of my first gen eds I took as a freshman. It's called natural disasters. And it actually made me really
mm,
interested in like the weather. And it's kind of like
mm.
so like if I were to think of something like super, super passionate about, I don't know, I don't really have anything necessarily, but I always thought it'd be cool to study the weather.
You'd be like a
Um,
tornado chaser?
I don't know. I
No,
mean,
you want to do that with an
I don't
armored
know.
car?
There's a lot of stuff you could do in weather.
You gotta like measure the Hoover Dam water that's dropping to like dangerous levels.
Uh, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
But
Forest
that's
fires?
something that could potentially be in the future. I don't know. Maybe if I
Mm,
went back to school and studied some weather or something, then I could do like kind of combine my two, do something with like data analytics and forecasting with weather or something. Which
I
would be
see.
kind of cool. But yeah, as of right now, like based on like my internship I did,
Mm,
that was like kind of in IT. I kind of didn't really feel super passionate about it.
mm,
It was like a really cool experience to have, to see what like how the workplace is and like, getting, business requirements from your stakeholders or whatever, like from your clients in the company, and it's like,
right.
and then fulfilling the projects for them. But
Mm,
I think it's kind of hard to connect, like, it didn't really connect with a passion within me, I guess, in that
mm.
sense.
Do you think
Um,
you find something that makes money first? You do it after a while, you start figuring out the intricacies, specifics of the field, then you can like be passionate about it. You know what I mean?
yeah, I don't actually know. Something I've heard of before, this is from like a K-drama, but it's like your main income item should be just a job, to get you
Mm,
money or whatever. But
mm,
then your second thing should be something you enjoy. Because it's like,
mm,
you need to survive, but then after that, it's like, you should do what you enjoy. So it's like
mm.
an example that was in the K-drama was just like he's like a lawyer, but then also like a cafe owner on the side. So it's
Oh,
like yeah, it's kind of interesting. Maybe I want
oh,
to, I don't know, something like that.
I see. I don't know what K-drama you're talking about. I don't watch K-dramas
Oh,
either,
it's
so it's lost on me.
I think it's called Healer, but it's been a while. I might have gotten some details wrong. But
Oh,
anyway,
I
like the
see.
point is just like, yeah, in terms of finding a job, yeah, I don't know. I also like might be pretty interested in doing something in like healthcare, like
Mm,
working somehow in healthcare. So it's like it might not necessarily like connect to my education or a job specifically, like, oh, I'm like a
mm,
doctor healing people, but it's
mm.
like working in that environment would kind of be like what I'm doing is actually like contributing and helping someone.
Right.
um, yeah,
Gotcha.
so maybe that could be something, but as of right now, yeah, I feel like I would still be in the point of it's like not doesn't really matter too much.
I see. I see. Well, I wanted this podcast to kind of be like a time capsule in a way, because I think you'll be going to the full-time training,
Yeah,
and that takes a year or two. And so I don't know if you'll be the same person that comes out, you know? So and you don't know if I'll be the same person you left because this conversation is kind of not normal of our conversations we have in real life. In real life, we're constantly clashing, I think, but
interesting.
clashing in a good way, right? Because we have divergent views on a lot of things, and but the thing is, like, unlike I think society today, we don't try to just like, you know what, Ethan's beyond saving. I'm never gonna talk to him again. You know, we just keep talking and talking to each other. And I think that's something rare in our society, at least. So I just want to get a couple things out in the open and see what people think about it. And the first
Sure.
first one I think we have a lot of conflict over is your bubble theory.
All
You know, so you
right.
want to talk about it, what it is, and
So yeah, in brief, like this bubble theory I have is just very loosely based off of this idea called tabula rasa, which is like
that I told you about.
yeah, that actually you told me about that basically you're just the like imagine you're like this blank slate and it's like everything is just from everything that is about you is just like from your experiences.
Mm,
Right. And then so but for me, I kind of didn't see it that way. Like I kind of took it even further. I just kind of had this weird thought that it's like actually everything can be put into some kind of bubble, and it's like, and it's not supposed to be like oh, I'm separating people into boxes.
mm,
Sometimes it does happen that way because that's just how bubbles work, I guess. But really, it just what it encompasses is that there's always some way to group everything together as well as different groups of people together, whether it's through ideas, whether it's through where you live, whether it's through how you think of things. It can literally be
mm,
anything. It's supposed to just be a like kind of like a fun, objective outlook on life for me. Like it's not really a. Sometimes I could use it to try to prove some kind of point, but in general, it's really just supposed to be like, nope, it's just the bubble theory. Like, yeah, it makes sense
mm,
because you would be in the same bubble as X people if like you let's say people who like uh who only drink bottled water. I would put those people in a bubble because it's just like they like to drink bottled water. But
Mm,
then they could also be people who drink or they could also be people
like
like
boba.
who like boba. And so and it's not like you can only be in one or two bubbles. You can be an infinite amount of bubbles. So that
Mm,
bubble would just put you'd be in a bubble that you only drink bottled water. You could
mm,
also be in a bubble that you also really like boba.
right. And
Yeah.
I kind of, you find it to be an objective view, but I have a really hard time accepting it. Like I think people we've talked to, like Peter, he sees your point, right? It just is, yeah. It's you could look at everything like that. It's just by expanding your experiences, you don't get out of you get out of your bubble per se, but you just enter into another bubble, right?
Yeah, I think
Um,
Peter kind of sees it as like kind of kind of the same way I do. I don't know. Maybe I have to talk to him more about it, but yeah, like everyone's in a bubble, and to expand your horizons, you go into other bubbles and
mm.
see what it's like.
I feel like the main not criticism, I guess criticism I have of it is it's so limiting, and it discourages, like if someone is naturally introverted or doesn't want to expand his horizon or her horizons, then there's no like this theory doesn't give you a reason to. You could always just fall back and go like, well, woe is me. I'm in my own bubble. Even if I do try to escape it, I'm still gonna be in my own bubble.
I know what you're
Yeah.
saying, but wow, I really feel like the bubble theory, I think it only feels limiting if you let it be limiting. So it's like that's so like taking it take your so it's like you're saying like an introverted person, right?
All right.
So like there are many ways to go into other bubbles. One time you mentioned like, going to the news and like seeing how things are outside of the world. You're not
Mm,
actually there, but you're trying to escape your bubble in a sense.
mm,
But what I'm saying is like, let's say a really introverted person, right? Like
mm,
they go on the internet because
mm,
they're staying at home or something, right?
right.
And so it's like, but like according to this bubble theory, they would just be um, in this bubble of people who are at home who are on the internet. Because like
Mm,
I think maybe the limiting factor you don't really like. So according to this, I guess in a sense, you in my interpretation, I cannot put someone in the bubble, an introverted person who's using only the internet, let's say to research like skydiving. I would not put them in the bubble as people who have actually skydived. Like, sure, you
mm,
can do your research and you can read thousands and thousands of accounts of like people who go skydiving and like all their
mm.
personal experiences, but because you have never actually experienced it yourself, you will still be in a separate bubble. And I think actually I think what you struggle with is not necessarily breaking out of the bubble, but like when can you be allowed to break into a different bubble? Maybe you should try thinking of it
When
that
can
way.
you be allowed to break into?
So like
You
for
can do it
me,
whenever you want when you
no,
have
so
a
what I'm
different
saying
experience.
is,
Uh-huh.
we're just staying on this example, like introverted people who don't want to go out, who don't go outside, right?
Right.
So they will always just be limited to the bubble of introvert plus whatever they're doing, like to get out of the bubble, Because just like,
Mm,
I mean, we're all in our bubbles, like even if we're not conscious of it. So like personally, like I would consider myself kind of like a introverted extrovert in a sense. So it's like I really enjoy like, sometimes just staying home and being alone. And I think I get more of my energy like from resting and like being alone. But I also do enjoy like, one like we hang out like
mm,
one-on-one things or like just like kind of smaller group things.
mm,
It's like if I'm in a large group setting, I'll find myself exhausted very quickly. So it's like, sure, like in a sense, that will limit my bubbles because
mm,
can only do X amount of things. Like if I can't be out and about as much. But at the same time, an extroverted person
mm.
would find it hard to break into the bubble of an introverted person because they have different experiences. So they would have a different outlook on that kind of stuff, right?
Right. I guess the examples we've talked about so far, it's limited experience, meaning that not everyone has those experiences, and so you could kind of group people based by experiences. But what about universal experiences? Like
Universal.
birth, death. Well, I guess marriage isn't universal in the sense that not everyone gets married, but everyone is born at some point, right? Everyone
Okay.
dies at some point.
Yeah.
Everyone has to eat at some point. Everyone has to breathe at some point. Like those are universals. Would you
Okay.
still group everyone? Like if you group everyone who breathes in a bubble, like why do that versus because there's no one outside that bubble who can not
See,
breathe,
so I
you know?
feel like you're kind of is that a philosopher's way of approaching? I don't know, but I find that kind of thinking to be pointless because it's like the bubble theory isn't supposed to necessarily limit you. If anything, it should encourage you to like go out more, like to try to get more experiences in any way, in any capacity, like whatever you can do to
Interesting.
go out more.
Because when so
Because
when
like
you hear it, it encourages you to get more experiences.
okay, so let me just take what you're
Mm,
asking, right? So you're
mm.
saying birth, death, food, drink, right?
Yeah.
Like, sure, I could try to say like, oh really honestly, like there's not even much point in talking about this, but because the main point is the practicality of it. It's like, okay, because so based on this bubble theory, I'll just
Mm,
answer your question, right? Yes, you will group everyone based off of that. But just like bubbles can be, you can have bubbles within bubbles within bubbles. So it's like, yeah, that would just be the overarching bubble, people who were born. But like you normally wouldn't take such a general bubble like that because how could you apply that? Normally you would so like if you want to use a born example, I would say like, okay, for me, for example, when
mm,
I was born, the umbilical cord was like wrapped around my neck. So I was like,
mm, mm.
while I was still in the womb or whatever. So it's
Right.
like they have to kind of like do some
Untangle
weird,
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
untangling. So like it's such a random like experience, right?
Mm,
But
mm,
like you wouldn't be in that bubble. But I would be in a
mm.
bubble of people who had their umbilical cord wrapped around their neck while still in the womb, right? So it's like
Right, right.
and then maybe there's a study on when that happens to babies, they grow up weird or something. Because I don't know. Anyway, that was just a random clip. But yeah, so people, yeah, you can group these things. So okay, let's do a more practical one. Food, right? Yeah,
Mm.
everyone needs food to survive. So you're saying it's why put those people in a bubble? Like why put everyone in the world because in that one bubble? But like it's not about putting them in a bubble. They just are in that bubble. But what you want to do is like, okay, people who everyone has to eat food, but then you have to go even you want normally want to go even deeper, right? So it's like, okay, people who can only
Who eat a
eat
specific type of
type of
cuisine.
food or people who
Right,
like certain foods, then you would put them into
right.
bubbles. And then it's like, okay, why do they do that? Maybe it's their cultural exposure from where they
Okay.
are. So then you
My,
put those bubbles around. So
mm.
it's like, yeah, like yeah, I mean, sure.
I'm
I agree
okay.
with you. It would be
Uh-huh.
pointless to put those into bubbles. Like, why would you? Like,
Mm.
but that's not the point because I'm not putting them in there. They just are in there,
Well,
right?
if everyone's equal and that everyone is in a bubble, fine. But I think you believe that certain people can transcend being in the bubble, you know?
Transcend into being whatever like local maybe I'll call it local bubbles, like a local bubble or like right around like their
So you
immediate
still
local
th
bubble.
you still think they're in a bubble.
Well, like you said, right? Because everyone is born, everyone has to eat food, everyone. So yeah, technically, objectively, everyone will be in a bubble unless, maybe unless you become God or something. Then you could find some way to
But like
outsmart human logic.
in a way that doesn't match like Christian beliefs. Because Christian beliefs is almost like certain things transcend yourself and your own experiences, right? Like
Mm,
God in a way transcends above that.
yeah,
You would not be doing this thing like if you didn't have God. But so then do Christians transcend above the bubble?
I think it's less about Christians, I guess, and more about spiritual experiences. So I think something that we can authoritatively somewhat talk about is like our bodily experiences and like our how to say like social experiences or like bodily experiences and just like general life experiences
Physical secular experiences.
physical secular, but once you start going spiritual, I can't really tell someone else like, okay, you're not having a spiritual experience, or I can't really tell someone like, oh, your spiritual experience is the same as mine or it's different, right?
Mm,
Because so in this Christian life, like I think everyone's spiritual experience with God should be unique to them, right?
mm,
So it's like in a sense that would just be a bubble between you and God if you want to apply the bubble theory there, or it would
mm,
just be a bubble around just you. Even it could just, I don't know, but the point is
right.
like, yeah. I can't really speak on like for spiritual experiences. It's like I just can't, I can't tell someone like,
It's
hey,
just a
you're
spiritual bubble.
yeah, because like it could be completely uniquely different. But it's like for bodily experiences and secular experiences, it's like, I mean, at least so far, we haven't really heard of anyone who can, ascend from this mortal plane and like, exist on the ghost level or something. It's like,
Mm,
I don't know. Like I don't really know how you could, in a sense, escape that. But because like in the spiritual aspects of things, it's supposed to be a subjective experience. It's a very personal experience with you and God. So it's like I can't really. I mean, I just wouldn't really want to like attempt to put someone in a bubble because it's like,
mm.
I mean, I could try. Like I could say like, okay, oh, people
Or
who,
there's certain things that I say sometimes. You're like you're in your geographic bubble, right?
yeah, I
It's
mean,
because
yeah,
you've been in New Jersey your whole life, or not even not whole life, but for a long time that you have this thought or you have certain experiences that you don't necessarily see elsewhere, right?
yeah,
This talk about subjectiveness of spiritual stuff, like physical secular stuff, you can verify, like you can't, your bank's not going to tell you, oh, we don't know where your $5,000 is. You withdraw your money from the bank immediately, right? If you slack off at work, your boss can tell and it's like, this is not a good worker. But spiritual stuff, you can't ever, if everything is subjective, you can't verify, whether this is real or not. The only thing you can verify is yourself, right? Isn't that what causes issues like the breakup of churches? I think Protestant churches break up more than Catholic churches, right? Because
mm,
it's emphasizes the individual over the group. And so if the individual's experience of salvation triumphs that of the group, then doesn't that lead to, oh, I have this revelation. No, you don't, Austin. That's not from God, and then that causes crusades, holy wars, issues like that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I could see that like causing issues,
Mm,
like what you're saying. Like I think in my personal view, I guess what is important, like that practical matter is like I just kind of like where you are personally with God. Okay, so like we also grow up learning, that like it is good to have that corporate fellowship, right? Like meeting with other
mm,
people. It's like,
yeah.
yeah. So like yeah, you should. But I think so what you're talking about kind of on a more general level, like, okay, but if you don't agree with the church because it's like, oh, I feel like I'm getting a different speaking than what the church is or something. They're telling me I'm
Mm,
wrong, but I feel like I'm right. It's like
mm,
that can be a really, really hard thing to get over because it's like, you learn like, okay, everyone, you know, gets their spiritual subjective experience of God, their personal view, whatever,
mm,
like this is what they see, right?
right.
So it's like, how can you reconcile that with if the church is telling you you're wrong,
Mm,
but like you're like, I feel like I'm right, right?
right.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, honestly, because like spiritual matters can be because they are so subjective, I can't I personally don't have enough background and
Mm,
feel like or authority to really speak on like, oh, I'm not going to tell you who's right, who's wrong.
right. Right.
I think if the church or the individual is truly at peace with God, like themselves, they just need to do like what they're gonna do in a sense. Like, if you're genuinely at peace with God, I don't know, maybe you need to find something else. I mean, I've heard of cases where people like in all Christianity, like they'll move churches or whatever just because they feel like it doesn't click for them.
Mm,
I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of thoughts you could have about that.
mm,
But I think like, if you're just in the genuine fellowship with God and you're struggling to, in a sense, like just be in a place, like
mm,
maybe you need to try something else for a bit. I don't know. Maybe you need to reevaluate your relationship. Maybe they're not having it. Maybe you're not having, maybe you're somewhere
mm.
else. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's tough because like, I mean, yeah, I think in the end, really, it really would just come down to like,
So something we say like in church is that we're not the UN, in that we all come from different backgrounds, but we're not here to try to be political in terms of ends justify means. Like we're trying to get some type of thing done. It's like we always use the example of like setting up chairs. It's not about how good we set up chairs, but it matters like during the process as we set up chairs, are we quote quote ministering life to others? You know what I mean? That's a very Christian way of doing things.
Hmm.
And in the world today, it's very Machiavellian in that sense. Ends justify means. I don't care how
Machiavelli.
you get it done. You just need to get it done, right? With Christianity, it's very different. It's the process that matters more so than the end goal. And that's something that's lost since the Renaissance, I think, and after, because as our world gets more secular, like who cares about the process in which you get stuff done, right?
Well, what do you think about interviews? So like when they ask you like, oh, how do you solve a problem? Or like, when they're like tech interviews where they have like a coding interview and
Hmm.
they
There's
walk
still,
them through the process, right? Because like they might
yeah,
not actually care that they got to the answer because I mean a lot of I've talked to a lot of comp sci majors and it's like they'll just say, yeah, you just got to do leak code, like grind out, like memorize these leak code problems, and then it's like or just keep practicing these leak code things, and it's
right.
like
So that would be an
yeah,
example of like you do care about the process, but I would argue it's still result oriented in that they're looking for a certain type of thinking that will get a certain result. It's not so much the individual's thinking or how they think, but it's like, can this person solve a problem? Because I need problem solvers on my team rather than people who eat up my cash and don't do anything, right? I think that that's still the end goal of a business. It's efficiency, right?
that's probably true for most companies in the world.
In church, we're not trying to get something done. If anything, it's like God that's the one supposed to be working. We're always like, we should be resting, God should be doing the work. But then it's like in reality, when things do come up, right? Some people have got to do work, right? Some people have to go arrange the chairs. I think that's the situation where this clash between spiritual and secular things come in. Because then you realize sometimes spiritual, you don't get a response. Right. Sometimes you don't feel anything from God. Sometimes you disagree. People who believe God, love God the same, disagree on things, right? And that could fracture church that way. What else holds you together besides God,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
so that's something I guess we're both grappling with and working on.
yeah,
And
for
for people
sure.
listening, hopefully they feel like they've heard something that they've probably been grappling to, but just haven't had the words for it. Um, I wanna go a little bit deeper.
Sure.
I said that you're going to the full-time training. Um, I've interviewed some people, John Ting. John's gone to the full-time training. He talked a little bit about. I'm not sure he explained quite what it was. Not sure if I interviewed anyone else from full-time training, but to someone who doesn't know what it is, we shortened to FTTA. You want to kind of explain it or give like
Sure.
what you
So
think it is and why you're going? Because
yeah,
most people right now are looking for a job, they're like
yeah.
after school I got to start working.
Yeah.
Why are you going to spend a year there or two?
Yeah, so the full-time FTTA is uh, an acronym for the full-time training in Anaheim. So to me, I guess like I haven't actually, attended it yet. So my description might be different than John Ting, who's actually been there. But for me, um, so I see it as like a truth and service program where you learn, truths from the Bible, and then you also have opportunities to apply these truths like in service for the surrounding churches or the local communities in different aspects. So like
Mm,
there's like campus work, youth group work,
mm,
children's work, even just community work,
mm.
in terms of like the gospel and truth and services, that kind of stuff.
So that's kind of
Um,
what it is.
so then you also ask like,
Why are you going?
why am I going?
Because this answer might change after a year. That's the part of the time capsule, you know? You can look back and go like, oh, this is what I originally wanted to go for, you
Yeah.
know?
So it's actually I actually grew up hearing about um, this truth school, this Bible school, and I was like originally like it was like the last thing I'd ever wanted to do. And I mean, like personally struggled with it in terms of like my church life. Once we hit like high school maybe, or like
Mm.
started getting to like upperclassmen grade in high school. And I
I was
started,
with you on that too.
yeah, and I was kind of like,
We were sitting there while everyone was praising the Lord, going hallelujah, and we were like, well, will that last past the summer,
well, it
right?
wasn't that, it was more the emotional tearing up, right?
But it's like, well, yeah, it's like everyone's emotional now. It's like, why aren't they emotional like
Yeah.
half a year later? You know?
Anyway,
Mm,
and so I started to like find it hard to enjoy like the meeting life in a sense, like going to young people meetings. And I used to love going to like youth group meetings because it's just
mm,
like you get to see people you like, it's like fun or whatever. And eventually I started like just not wanting to go as much. And it's like the only thing that kept me together was like kind of a personal promise I made to
mm,
myself and and God. Like I was like watching older people leave. It's like, oh, why are they not coming anymore? How come why are they
mm,
leaving? And it feels discouraging. And so to me, it's kind of like I'm not going to be like that, like
mm.
for the younger ones. And it's not like I'm not condemning, the
Those who
ones who
left.
left when I was
Mm,
younger. They have their own situations. I don't really know what they're going through. But personally, I knowing what effect that had on me, I was just like, I don't want that to happen. For the younger ones. I was also like the
mm,
only one in my grade who was still kind of like regularly going, at
mm.
least. And so I was kind of like, yeah, I don't want to leave this kind of weird gap and potentially discourage people.
Right.
Anyway, so that was kind of my
Interesting.
heart at the time.
For
Yeah.
me, I think I had similar experiences. Like, why does everyone, after they get to college, leave? And then I guess where we diverge is that for you, it's like you promise is like, I don't know if I ever made that promise. I was kind of like, I don't want this to happen. I don't know if it's
I
like,
think that's kind of a promise.
but
I
then
mean, I think we've
once
talked
I
about
got
it.
once I got to that senior year of college, then I'm like, oh, this is why everyone leaves, you know? So that's where I think we diverge.
Yeah.
You kept that promise and kept going. For me, it was like, okay, I see why now, you know, but keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
Why
So then it
why
was
why go?
funny because then in college,
Mm,
there were no youth groups around me because I go into University of Illinois,
mm.
Urbana-Champaign, and it's hard to like live there unless you're commuting like an hour away, or
In the
like
middle of nowhere.
or you're living in like you're working like a remote, or maybe you're working at the hospital or the school, right?
Mm,
It's pretty tough to work there because it's secluded, it's college town, so it's like
mm,
anyway, yeah.
right.
And so I was like, wow, I'm kind of free in a sense. Like I don't have to go to these meetings anymore, like church meetings. Like, my
Mm,
parents used to drag me as a kid and then I kept going. Now I don't have to go anymore.
mm,
Yeah, and so actually my freshman year, I actually didn't go to the meetings that often. Like I would go a few times so I could tell my family, like, yeah, I mean, I'm going to the meetings still, but it wasn't really something that like once I was in the dorm, it's like Sunday morning comes, it's like, do I want to go? It's like I actually,
mm,
I had a choice. I was like,
mm,
I mean, I guess I could go, I guess I
mm.
might not go.
But
Anyway,
something you said, I wanna add
sure.
this. You said when you were here in New Jersey, like your parents would drive and you just go, right? But your parents aren't kind of like, Ethan, you must go to the meetings, you know? And then you said you kind of have to like report back to your parents, like, oh yeah, I'm kind of like I kind of you kind of met the requirement in a way, but I don't think they're like that as people, because like something your dad said that's kind of stuck with me is that, Ethan, if you're just meeting and not getting any schoolwork done or not finding jobs or whatnot, then you shouldn't be going to the meetings. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So there's still that practical aspect to it.
with my
You know, it's
family.
right. It's not just like something that's like, Ethan, even if you're not doing work or anything, please go to the meetings. You know what I mean?
How do it's I think I feel like that kind of expectation doesn't have to be necessarily stated, but it's like, hey, you're not doing anything more productive with your time, obviously Sunday morning at 10 a.m. So you like it's just like an unspoken, like, you're not doing anything productive right now, so like let's go to the
Mm,
meeting. And so it's like, okay, it's like, yeah. And it's like as
right.
a kid, I'm obviously not doing anything productive. I might be watching TV, rotting my brain or something, right? I don't know.
Mm,
But eventually, it's like, so once I get to college, it's like I still wasn't really doing anything productive. I was probably either like playing games or I don't know, going on my phone or something.
why do you
But
think we play games? Is
play
it to kind
games.
of control something rather than like, life is kind of like out of our control. So games, it's kind of like within your control, you know?
That's
You
a
you
really deep take on video games. I feel
A
like
lot of people played video
personally,
games during COVID, you know? I think why that is. I think it's
oh,
because it's
COVID. Okay.
yeah, because like why do people play games? It's kind of to escape reality in a way, right? Enter into a world you can control, that you can achieve things. even if those achievements are just gold and silver like currency on it, just in the game, or mana or whatever the currency
I
is,
mean,
right?
nowadays gaming has taken off to a new level. Like now
Oh
you can make
yeah.
money while gaming. There is
Well,
actual
you make
value
money off of
now.
the people who play games, yeah. Or you saying you could play games and make money off of
Yeah,
it?
there are like pro players who are like
There are,
millionaires.
there are, but that's always the top, like most
It's
people
true.
who
The
play
top,
games
the
don't
one
make money.
percent of the one
Oh, yep,
percent.
that's always how it works. Yeah, Pareto
I mean,
distribution.
honestly, I feel like video games. They started out at least like it was just fun. It was just
Mm.
like it just looked fun, so I did it. I was never that good at it, but it's like I just did it.
It's just fun, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I always felt when I played it's to escape. That's what I feel.
I think in college it became like that for me because
Mm.
it's like I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to do work, so I'm just gonna play games.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Which is, yeah, it's ironic because it hurts us in the longer run.
yeah.
That the work's still not done, but it's just something I've observed with myself. But sorry, I completely digressed you for
Oh
why you're going
yeah,
into
yeah, you're
full-time
good.
trading.
Okay, we're almost done anyway. So anyway, so I was like loosely involved with the gospel campus work on
Mm,
my at school. But again, like I wasn't going to as much stuff as like a freshman. But
mm,
eventually, like kind of just through the families, like the community church saints and older ones, taking care of me.
mm,
They would like invite me to their home, um, invite me like for meals, just kind of taking care of me in like
mm,
in a very human way, but also spiritual way,
mm,
without kind of suffocating me in any like the spiritual aspect. Like they never were like, all right, you need to read like 5 chapters of the Bible. They always kind of took care of my human needs when I needed it, and like would like kind of lightly feed me in a sense, like spiritual things as well. Like if somehow whenever like it was appropriate, because I never really felt like turned off in a sense. They're able to do it in a way that was like yeah, let's read a chapter or something just
mm,
to do it. Like yeah, we might as well. Yeah, anyway, and through that kind of care throughout my years, like freshman year, sophomore year, once I got to my junior year, through this process I started getting more and more active again, like going to the meetings, going to trying to go to everything if I could help it. The only times I wouldn't go is if I had class,
mm,
or work or something, but like I would try to go to everything, and it didn't necessarily feel bad in a sense. That's not a
mm,
good standard to have, but like it didn't feel exhausting in a
mm,
sense, like how it kind of used to back like in the past. It kind of just felt like I had somehow found like a joy in going to the meetings again,
mm,
and I was kind of like, that's interesting. And then somehow, like junior year, someone asked me like, would you want to go like to the full-time training, to the FTTA? And I was kind of like, actually, I'm not against it anymore. And I don't know when that happened. People have asked me like, was there a time it kind of clicked for you? It switched, and I can't really think of a time.
mm,
Like it just happened very gradually, and like once I didn't really realize it until someone asked me, and I was like, because my
mm,
answer used to be no, I'm probably just going to go work or go back to school,
mm,
after I graduate. And then once I hit my senior year, it was starting to like kind of be those decisions. It was actually kind of tough because I got an internship by this point, so I felt like I could probably get a job, like
mm,
as long as I applied enough. And there's also people I knew who were kind of like, yo, I can hook you up
mm,
with the job if you need it. And it's like I was really grateful to them because I was like, oh yeah, like I could do that if
mm,
like I can't get anything. And so although I'm kind of always worried about these kinds of things, like, oh, what would I be able to get a job? Will I be able to survive? Will I be able to, do this, pass
sure,
the
I'm
class
worried
or
about
whatever?
it too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, there was some kind of security there in a sense, because I had met these people who were willing to like give me
Mm,
opportunities like that. Then it was kind of like, okay, like, do I want to go? Like, okay, now, but if I go to the training, then I won't really be able to go to these jobs for like another 2 years anyway. And
mm,
so I was like, okay, uh, what do I do?
mm,
And I started just kind of considering whenever I come back to visit, meeting up with you, meeting up with the young
mm,
people that I personally cared for, that I was hoping I would stick through until I graduated high school,
mm,
and just considering all those people and like the people I grew up with who were kind of struggling, I was kind of like, I want to be more equipped to care for them. It was kind of like I was kind of realizing how limited I was. I mean, I feel like all the time Austin asked me questions, or even all the time people just ask me things, and I'm just like, honestly, like, I feel like I should know, but I don't know. And I just realized how limited I was. I was kind of like, I feel like I need to be trained. And I was just like, I just felt this like, I don't know if feeling is the right word, but it's just kind of this piece that like, I think that's where I need to be right now.
Mm,
Like the FTTA. And I was just like, I think that's enough for me to go. That's like where I need to be. And it was kind of like, yeah, like this care for other people that kind of caused me to, that kind of drove me to be like, yeah, like I don't know the answer to that question, or even like, but also I realized like sometimes it's not even about those answers. It's sometimes it's just about like how you approach those answers. I was
mm,
kind of realizing like
right.
my approach, whatever it was right now, I don't know, was so limited. And I was kind of just like, yeah, I feel like that's where I need to be right now.
Mm. So me and the young people are the last straw for you in
Not the
determining
last
to go
straw.
now.
Well, I don't know. It's just like just in general, like all my peers, like and like young people. Yeah,
Mm.
I really care about like the younger ones. Just like for some reason, like
Do you find it difficult to talk about this to like a audience outside of church? Because
um,
to explain this to them.
I've been well. They never really asked me actually,
Mm,
like why I'm going, but whenever I bring it up, they're kind of just like, oh wow, that's actually really cool, and they're just like,
mm,
I mean, I have a friend who constantly, whenever I mention something about this, like when we used to catch up with the college stuff, and I was like, oh
mm,
yeah, I'm like part of the Christians on campus like gospel outreach group where I'm
mm,
at, and they're just like, oh wow, that's actually really cool, and it's just like every time I would say something that's like, yeah, I'm really lucky, like they're kind of taking care of me, like they taking me these places or whatever, and like
mm,
my friends from high school would always be like, well, I'm actually really jealous of you that you have like this group,
mm,
and I
mm.
was kind of like, oh, yeah, I mean, I guess it's pretty lucky.
Right. So what
But
you see as normal, they're like, they don't have that and they want it. But then
yeah,
they also wouldn't join church just to participate in these activities,
yeah, maybe not.
right?
Though I have had some conversations with in it sometimes. And like it's a sometimes one of them has told me before, like, yeah, I don't know, Ethan, maybe in a few years, like maybe I'll see what your church is like. It's like, but I'm like, okay, I mean, a few years you'll probably forget that you said this, but um but yeah, I do have a friend that I'm kind of lucky that the people who I and it, like make effort to see, like from high school, in a sense, my real friends, my closer friends,
Mm,
they're normally pretty supportive about this kind of stuff. Like
mm,
every time I've ever, because I'm at the point where we all graduated college, so it's like everyone's telling each other, "Oh yeah, I'm going to Amazon, I'm going to Google, I'm going to Barclays, whatever," right?
mm-hmm, right.
And it's like, oh Ethan, where are you going? It's like, are you still looking? And I'm like, I'm going to Bible school, man. And they're like, oh what? They're like, dang,
Right,
it's
different.
really cool.
It's
Yeah.
different. Mm.
They
Have you
they've
made it?
asked me like
Mm,
what is there, like what happens there, but they never
mm,
asked me why I'm going, I guess, which is kind of interesting. I normally so what I meant, so sorry,
again, ends justify means.
to answer your question, it's not too difficult. I actually used to think it would be very difficult, but for me, it's actually, I feel like it's not. I'm
I,
pretty lucky that the people I'm around are normally pretty supportive. And it's
I
like,
wonder if it's because your
yeah.
friends are afraid to probe. Because, like sometimes religious matters like off limits, in American society. You don't
Well,
talk about that
they're
stuff. You don't
willing to
criticize that.
like they're
Uh-huh.
willing to ask about it all, but the only thing they've never asked is like why I'm in it.
Why do
Like
you want to go?
they've
Yeah.
asked me plenty of times, like, oh, what do you even do in it, or like
I
what.
think it's the Machiavellian approach to society. They want to know what it is, what do you get
Interesting.
from it? What's the goal?
Machiavellian.
Yeah, who cares about the process? Why you go? Well, everyone has their own motivations. It's what you do there that matters. That's the way the world looks at it, at least. Like for
Interesting.
me, my cousins were beating me over the head over like why aren't you looking for a job during college? We've been like interning and working asses off, like why are you like so invested in this spiritual stuff that like, and that kind of that
Mm,
kind of that kind of struck me kind of deep. It's just like, you know what? Yeah, why? I don't really see. I guess that's where we diverge too. It's also like, I guess no one really influenced you, but it's just like you gradually reach this point of, I want something that the job won't get me, money's not going to pay for. But for me, it's like, I just feel like without a job, without a money, I will always be short, just
mm,
practically, I will always be short. And yeah, I just don't see how spiritual, especially since and we've talked about that. I've seen like the spiritual practical gap. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, we talk a lot of spiritual matters, but when it comes push comes to shove, when we need people to do things, will they actually do it? Or will they say that, I didn't feel it in my spirit to do it, so I didn't do it.
I
It
think,
just, yeah.
but like for that kind of thing, I think if you take a really objective view
Mm.
of it, you don't think people get things done?
If it's in their interest, but I never think they just will do it is for God. Even in
Hmm.
going to full-time training, like
You don't
some
think
people,
so?
I don't think it's purely for God. No, I think there's always other motivations mixed in. Maybe they talk about after you go, you start purifying those motivations, and then because you spend so much time with God, then it's like you think you have more time to reflect and go like, huh, did I come here? The motivations that I came here with, is it really is for God? Can I really say I'm here for God? Or are there other, and you start dealing with those little things that, I guess, impurities, you could say. And I guess that's a part of purification process.
Okay, but okay.
Mm,
There was one time I was visiting my home church,
mm,
and after the meeting was over, as I was leaving, I
mm,
saw these two brothers doing work on like the door. Like I don't know what it
mm,
is, but
mm.
it's outside of cleaning service, like the regular vacuuming and stuff.
Yeah,
I was
it's
and I was kind of like,
maintenance.
huh, that's like nice. So, on the one hand, you can say like, oh yeah, they're good with their hands, and they're just, it makes sense for them to do it. Um,
Mm,
but it's also like, why would they do that? Like they could be working on their own house. It's
true,
like, why
true.
not? Why are they wasting their time doing it here?
Because
And
they're
I
bothered by it, I think. Like
bothered.
that's why I did things in church too, because I was bothered by the lack that no one did it. Like sometimes you just see things. It's like if you look at a dirty dish in a sink. To some people, it doesn't matter. It's like, okay, it's just a dirty dish. To me, it matters though. I want a clean house, so I'm gonna
Hmm.
go wash it. I think these people, they're kind of bothered by it, and so they do it. Like there's some things in church where it's just like anywhere else in the world, this would have been done by now, but just because it's church, it's not done. It's only here that it's like and this is what frustrates me too. It's like sometimes I get the urge like this, why is this not done? Why is this being saved to last minute? Like planning for like camping trips or whatnot. And so that's when I step in. But then it's like, is this really from God, or is this just me out of my standards and sense of duty to
So
get this done,
do you
you
think,
know? Mm,
let's say you're walking by, right? And
yeah,
you see these things, right?
right. Yeah, you see
But
you
okay,
see it
but
yeah,
let's say you like, this is super niche and shouldn't be
okay.
applied to general things at all.
Okay,
But
sure.
let's just say something within you was like, instead of going right, I'm gonna go left. So you go left, and then you see this thing, and you're like, okay, that bothers me. I kind of want to fix it. Do you think that could be from God? That random like, okay, why did I decide to go left or right today? It's like, but because you went a certain direction, you saw something and that made you want to fix it. This is super niche, and
Mm,
it should never be wholly applied to everything, because that's
yeah,
not.
this is
Yeah,
a warning for everyone listening.
yeah,
Don't try to
yeah,
apply things you hear. And that's actually one of the things we talk about. It's like when you hear someone's experience, don't try to mimic it.
yeah,
Right, because mimicking works in the world actually, because usually it could get you a result.
yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't. But
True.
with spiritual stuff, it's like you can't ever mimic it, and actually leads to disappointment and bitterness. Right?
Yeah.
Don't be like us too. Right. So, but is it from God?
Like, do you think it could be? Because think about it, right?
I mean, there's
Like,
always the possibility. I'm not gonna rule it out and say no. I'm not a hardcore atheist. Like, no, there's no God, so it's like it's just random chance and all. No, I don't think so at all. I think I'm in the place struggling. I think it could be from God. Yeah, like
so
the whole thing behind. Oh yeah,
what I'm
that's.
saying is like,
Mm,
what I mean is, it's like, if that could be, possible, then,
mm,
I mean, let me put it this way, like,
yeah.
so when we say things don't get done, right?
Mm,
There's a meme going around,
mm.
kind of, and it's called, "Will this trip make it out of the group chat?" And so
What?
it's this TikTok trend that's like, it takes a video of everyone sitting in a circle or whatever, or it's like
Mm,
they show a screen recording of their texts going like, "Oh my gosh, guys, we should go here, we should go here,"
mm,
and
mm.
then they have this line of text that's like, "Okay, will this trip make it out of the group chat?" And it's like, and the comments are
Uh,
always like, "Nah," like they'll look at what they've said, and it's
uh-huh.
like, "Nah, you haven't bought tickets yet, you're not making it out of the group chat,"
Oh, okay, okay.
or it's like, then someone will show themselves like, "Hey guys, I found 9 cheap tickets for Hawaii next year." who's going.
Wow.
And suddenly everyone's like, actually, I need to check my schedule. And it's like, actually, and so it's like, yeah, those trips are not making out of the group chat, right? And so
Mhm.
I think there's more to it because you're right, right? Practically, like, if you're not getting like, I guess in a sense, like a clear speaking from God, if you're like, okay, I need to plan this camping trip, why isn't this getting done? And it's like, personally, I feel like probably most of the time people aren't just with every single thing they're like turning back to the Lord. They're like, okay, Lord, should I do this? Should I do this? And they go back to the planning. It's like, and then they go back, okay, should I do this? Should I do this? I mean, in a sense, I think that would be a good thing actually. But also like I don't know how to say this, but like I feel
Mm,
like the not getting done aspect that you're talking about is like
mm,
might just be a matter of like perspective in a sense. I think it sucks to see like, okay, this camping trip planning is not getting done, so you need to step in. So
mm,
do you not think that you having to step in could be like a like to other people, they could be thinking like, oh, thank the Lord that Austin's here. It's like to plan it, right? And I could see that being very frustrating. It's like,
mm,
okay, why is it always me that has to do it? Why do I have to be the one to step in, right? And even like, but I don't know. I mean, I've never asked someone this, but like, I mean, where I went to school, that church
mm,
I went to, like, whenever there's stuff that had to be done in the house, like that's also the meeting hall, the church
mm,
building, like we'd have to let them know, and then they'd like normally just call a guy to come do it. I mean, it's a very small church, so normally not that many people know how to do like
mm, mm,
a lot of stuff. And it's kind of like, I don't know, whenever I see a worker in the house, it's kind of annoying because I'm like, okay, like we always have workers in the house doing, but it's also like, okay, stuff's getting done,
mm,
stuff needs to
mm,
be fixed and stuff's getting fixed. It's like
mm.
there's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, in church, it's like maybe there's a weird fine line that's like, okay, am I waiting for speaking from God before going on with this? Or, what is the practical like application? I
I
don't
think
know.
normally that would be fine, but it's in our society where we don't want to mess up that leads to nothing getting done because people
Hmm.
are so afraid of messing up that they just don't do it. Because if you don't do it, someone else will do it, and then they take the risk of messing up because if they succeed, they succeed. That's we almost take that as granted. They succeed, right?
I
If they
see that
fail, if
actually.
they fail, that's on them, you know. Nothing on me, right? It's a no skin in the game scenario, right? Why put your skin in the game, right? There's really no reason, unless like you really believe in God, you're willing to put your skin in the game, you know. So I guess that's something that I've observed. It's like, yeah, it's speaking is one thing, when you put your skin in the game, that's the real thing. Everyone can tell me how to believe in God or their experience of God, but when you actually see them, that's do something that's different. But back to the example of maintenance, meeting hall maintenance, or just some people just see I don't know what they think. Maybe they did get it from God. It reminds me of something your dad you told me your dad said to you. It's like sometimes like he sees something wrong in the church, he has to say something at that point, right? Otherwise the behavior is kind of unacceptable, right? But then is that from God or is that himself? Like you don't know in the moment, right? It's just something has to be done in the moment. I think I need to, I don't know about you, I need more of that type of approach in life or mentality. It's just get it done, think about if it's from God or not later. Of course, like,
I don't think it's necessarily a take it, like do it now, hope it's from God later. I think it's more just like, I think it's actually more like, oh Lord, I
even
need
in
to
the
say something.
moment.
I was like, oh Lord, I
Mm,
need to say something now, so I'm gonna say it. I can only just hope you're with me, kind of thing. And
mm,
then
mm,
you have to go and say it. And then it's like later that fellowship with the
mm.
Lord after is more like, okay, Lord, like maybe I should apologize to this person, like hopefully they didn't take it like, whatever, or
The wrong way, right?
well, yeah, that's like
Okay, yeah, I guess I
I
phrased
think
it
okay, yeah, if
badly.
you
I
phrase it
phrased it
like
badly.
that,
I phrased it
that could be
badly.
taken very dangerously.
No, yeah, that could be just that's really
That
Machiavellian. That's
yeah,
just like
that
I'm just gonna do things my way and then ask God like everything can be justified. Like that's dangerous. And that's
yeah.
actually like not biblical either, I guess. You know how like the person reached over to try to correct the ark and then he died, right? I never liked that story, but that's what I think of too. Like I really can't understand that story.
uh
I'm
yeah.
starting to get it. Like I guess Jordan Peterson used that story as an example, and he's used that example as like there's certain sacred things in life that you just don't touch
Hmm.
because if you touch it, it's gonna have very bad consequences.
That's interesting.
But it's like it's also like he also mentioned is like we live in a very secular world. So to say that some things are sacred, it's kind of foreign to most people. Like what are sacred things?
Yeah, it's
You know?
true.
What is sacred in today's world? It's like anything can be
What
satirized.
is sacred?
Yeah. What is sacred?
I think
Like people used to think like Bible sacred,
wait,
or
you think like universally or like everyone actually thinks so, or just general public, like most people in the world?
oh, so that's another thing too, right?
Because
He
I don't
talks
think
about
there's anything all humans can agree on, right?
on that's sacred, right?
Yeah.
I
But I
guess.
was, I was gonna say like, you know how like in prison, okay, this is just stories that
In
I think.
prison?
I don't know if
Okay,
it's true, but
sure,
like,
sure.
you know how if they say that if you were involved in a crime involving a child, like you murdered them or did other pretty bad stuff
Oh
to them,
well.
like
Uh-huh.
you would be like targeted. Like you will like that's like a line they don't like. You mess with the kid, like you mess with kids, man. Like you got in here because you
So
did
the
something.
prisoners don't like
So
this.
no, Tim. So what I'm saying is, if that standard all the way goes down to even like people in jail, it's like people who, break the law and like for
Ah,
different reasons. I feel like kids.
there's a sacredness to them.
Okay, I mean, people will say like, "Oh, I
Mm,
hate kids," right? They're so loud and annoying and they cry, or whatever, right? But also at the same, like, sure, yeah, like, yeah, kids can make you angry, but at the same time, like, there's also like an unspoken, in a sense, like innocence. I feel like about kids that people
yeah,
see,
yeah.
or even just like birth
Right.
or babies. It's like, yeah, obviously, you'll see a baby that was just born and be like, okay, that's kind of gross. But at the same time, it's like you just like this mother just gave birth like to life like this,
Mm,
so it's like
right.
I feel like maybe that could be something that's sacred in a sense.
You're right. The sacredness of children, I think.
Like what you were saying, right? Like it used to be the Bible. I mean, it used to be marriage, right? Like, I feel like a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
people just there's a lot of those standards that are just gone now. But I feel like
Mm,
children is one of those things that's like, I mean, can you really look at like adoption, like orphanages, and actually just have zero sympathy like for them?
mm,
Like they weren't brought into this world on their own accord. Like their parents could have
right.
made bad decisions and now they're here. It's
Right.
like, do you really have absolute zero sympathy for them? Like, not for the parents,
Mm,
but for the kids. It's like,
mm.
they literally got brought into something where they can't control it. It's like nothing is out of their own will. So how, like, do you really feel nothing for that? I don't know.
I feel for me, something sacred, I guess it's more like a classic liberal approach, free speech. You have
Free
to,
speech.
that's pretty sacred to me. Because I
Interesting.
feel like you never understand a person if you don't give them free speech. They
Hmm.
could fake it, they could fake believing you. But that's in the like I guess Machiavellian wise, you get your goals done, you get what you need. But then at the end of the day, are they really your friend? Are they you do you really know them? Do they really know you? Would you like, I think that is sacred.
I feel like it's a
Genuineness.
very
Abstract.
an
I think it's less
abstract
abstract in spirit
an
stuff.
abstract view of I mean, I don't know, constitution or whatever, like like
An
a
abstract view
kind
of
of
sacred. I see, I see.
social dynamics, like
Maybe, yeah, sacred. Is free speech sacred?
I
Mm,
mean, no, I mean, to you it's sacred, like
right. It's just like why would you take it away from? But then I guess that could run into problems because if you have free
you can
speech,
say anything,
you
yeah,
could say you could shout fire in like a
too
crowded
much,
movie
yeah.
theater, right? But then it's also like when you say some things to God you're not supposed to say, right? It's like thou shalt not hold any other gods before me. If you say like I love ball or something, like
Mm,
does that like desacretize God and then in the name of sacretizing free speech, like I don't
yeah,
like
that's why, well, I guess that's why
that's the
I guess that's
contradiction.
why that guy
Yeah.
said that, right? Jordan Peterson, whatever, like,
There's some things you just don't question, right? It's
or
just
just
sacred.
yeah, like we don't find anything sacred. I mean, like, I mean, actually, do you think? Okay, sorry. Do you
Mm.
think marriage actually is sacred still?
Well, and currently, no.
Currently,
Like
no.
if by the current like how society looks at it, no. But personally, I do think so. Like
Why
this
do you think it's not by society right now?
Well, because even the idea of marriage is between a man and a woman. Even the idea of what is a woman, or what is a man,
Oh,
like that's under
you're
attack.
you're going on.
Well, I gotta say it. It's out there in society. If I get canceled, so be it, you know? Like if you're gonna hold marriage as like it could be between anyone just because they love each other, then like sure, if a majority of people agree, I guess that's how we define it now in
Well,
American
okay, but to
society.
them, like
Uh-huh.
those people, right? Like
Uh-huh.
they hold it probably pretty sacred, right? If they want to get it done.
Sure, yeah, they could get it done. So I mean,
So
yeah,
does that
who am I to
okay,
question? Uh-huh.
does that conflict with yours then? If they are the people that are holding it sacred, but then you're also holding it sacred, but you're holding it sacred is different because you don't, you're holding it sacred doesn't include them.
Mm, I guess the practical side of me is like as long as you don't get divorced, if you can hold that marriage together,
Interesting.
then there's something there. You know,
Yeah,
like
sure.
biblically it might be between a man and a woman, marriage, but then it's like, hey, if you're happy together, who am I to come in and take that away from you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not God. And that's part of free will, you know? It's like you do what you want. But then mm, yeah, we'll leave it at that. I don't have the data to question things, so
Sure,
I
sure,
won't I
sure.
won't I won't I won't do that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but like I still hold marriage in terms of like it's one of the few things left that's still rooted in biblical that you laugh at that, but it's true. Like you were
That's
surprised at this too. Like it's
yeah.
one of the few things I have left that I still hold the biblical standard to. Because I
Yeah.
think that outside the biblical standard, well, how do you why define marriage between man and woman? Especially when divorce rates are so high. Why is marriage even sacred? If you can
Mm,
break it apart, then what's the point of getting into it in the first place?
yeah.
I mean, granted, there's domestic
Well,
violence.
okay, do you
Uh,
understand people's reasonings where they're like I've because yeah, okay,
mm,
there's those extreme very negative cases where you should get away like from this, right? Like you're like if you're close, like if you're under the
if they're
threat
gonna
of like
kill you, yeah,
violence like that, yeah,
yeah,
you should
sure.
probably leave.
Mm.
But there's also people who go like, if both people, somehow lost feelings for each other, so they're both not happy.
Haha.
So it's
I
like,
guess, yeah,
should they
yeah.
stick it through? Like, do you think that's okay?
You see, so I just define like marriage. It's like as long as you're happy, then go for it, right? So then it's like, Austin, are you applying double standard now? It's like if people are not happy, you're still telling them to stick to a marriage. But then it's like if they're happy or outside, like like getting married a second time, then isn't that up to them? You see, like, so that's the like it's not just I'm not just trying to uphold a double standard. It's like it's a conflict within me too. I'm trying to grapple with it too. Like there are
Yeah,
cases where if like you get married a second time, you're much more happy.
yeah.
Like I could say statistically, like I know statistically that's not like you're if you get divorced and you get married a second time, the second marriage is more likely to end in a divorce, like over 50%. I think it's
Oh,
70% even.
really? Wow.
Yeah, so I could say statistically, like, don't do it, but I think statistically, when you apply statistics in this aspect to the social stuff, it's like very it's not convincing and it doesn't hold back the feeling. You know what I mean? It's like if people
Hmm.
just like
Yeah.
have that feeling to like it stats aren't going to change their mind. You know what I mean? So then it's like, well,
Are there
really,
stats
r-
on people, like on the amount of people who stay in marriages and feel happy about it?
they're doing research on it because like happiness is very subjective too,
Yeah, actually,
right?
that's pretty tough. Yeah, I
Right?
don't know
Because
how
it's
you
like when
measure
they
that.
have kids, because there's also marriages with kids and without kids you have to consider too, right? Because a
Yeah,
lot of American families are choosing not to have kids because it's such a burden. Right. Well, I don't know if society sees it as a burden. I think most people now see it as a burden because it's a lot
yeah.
of money involved. It used to not be a burden. It used to be a help. And I think we should return to that model where you teach your kids earlier on to help around the house and whatnot. So they feel they're
Mm,
a productive member of society, just household wise, versus
yeah.
if you're treating them out or doing everything for them. But yeah, happiness is hard to define because just talk to your parents. They've had to give stuff up, sacrifice, just to help you grow up. But somehow, for some reason, they think it's worth it in the end, and it makes them more happy. Does that make any sense? No,
It
like
doesn't. I
it
mean, we've
doesn't.
talked about this, right? Like
Yeah, we
a
have.
parent, like parent or familial love, that kind of unconditional love. is the only real life example of unconditional love that we can find, right? And it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
It's
like
like,
just like a funny example, like when my mom tells Joseph to take out the trash, Joseph might go like, "That's slavery," like he's learned that from South Park,
oh my
"That's
goodness.
slavery." But then I'm like, Joe,
Uh,
like you don't even realize how much like mom literally cooked food for you today and everything. Like I would consider that more slavery than just like taking out the trash. You
yeah,
know what I mean? And then sometimes like when my mom does, it's just like this is like borderline slavery. Like, but I don't know why you choose. It's like voluntary servitude, if that makes any sense.
voluntary servitude.
Why do you choose to keep yourself in this type of condition? And then
Mm,
it's just like, because, and then she says it's because it's for you guys. Yeah. But then it's like, I just doesn't make any sense at all. But then
yeah.
does it keep her happy? Like sometimes she's like, I really feel like you guys didn't do anything today and all my effort was wasted. And then that makes me feel like, is that a guilt trip? Like, in a way, yes, but in another way, it's like it's really what she feels. Like I feel that too. It's like if she worked so hard to cook food, it's like, and I got nothing done, then didn't I kind of let her down in a way? And so,
Hmm.
but then isn't that like,
Okay, can I ask you a question
yeah,
though?
go for it,
Do
go
you think
for
you're
it.
letting your family down by your parents down by quitting your job?
In a way, yes, and in a way, no. Like I'm not getting any
Hmm.
income now, so then it's like, I am a leech in that sense. But am I content on remaining here? No, yeah, I'm trying to get into a profession, teaching, right, that I can make money off of, right? And that's what I feel I could have an impact in. So,
Impact.
yeah, you told me this, and we talked about this on the last podcast. I just can't stand a kid who's just rotting at home or like on a couch.
Hmm.
I like maybe goes into the sacredness of children too, but they just have so much more potential than I do you know? And I feel like for us, like, yeah, we were brought up pretty well, but I always feel it could be better. And just like what kids have to go through now with like social media, it's like it's not even physical bullying anymore. All the bullying probably occurs outside of school. That like unspoken social rules, norms, things like that. And then add on top of that, it's like gender ideology, questioning like who you are as a person. Like I feel I could do better. You know what I mean?
Feel you can do better.
Yeah. It's just so messed up in like our world. It's like everything's being questioned, everything's being doubted. I feel the average person is just like, I just want to get through life. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
yeah. And somehow it's like it's kind of a contradiction in a way. It's like we have more material things and we're financially sound like more stable than our parents, but then will we be the same? And the outlook's
mm,
not looking too good. And I guess this is more like the secular side of me, but I really believe that like once you do well economically, like all these social issues you can solve with your own money. You know what I mean? It's like if you're passionate for LGBTQ community, I want to help you by making you economically independent and stable. Because then when you're that, you could choose to whether donate money to the causes you care for and whatnot. Now if
mm,
everyone's poor, everyone has no money. It doesn't matter what causes you stand for because at the end of the day, no one's going to have food or no one's going to have money. You know what I
interesting.
mean? Even church, and same objective applied. If you can talk all about spiritual stuff, at the end of the day, if you don't make any money, you can't sustain a church. You know what I mean? Like a church doesn't like to hear that. It's like, oh, it's like the money comes from like prayer, donations, generous donations from people who do have money, whatnot, or even little kids should donate money to get in the habit, or it's just to show that like God doesn't care about how much, that's like the widow with the 2 cents. God cares about where your heart is, all that. Like that's true, but at the end of the day, a few cents. You know what? Who am I to question a few cents? It might help. Some
Yeah,
you might just give someone a meal. But like at the end of the day, in order to do big stuff, you need money. That's just how the world operates.
that is how the world operates. Yeah.
Separation of church and state, is that another like double standard? I mean, it's like I'm almost running into web after web. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah, that's kind of how. Well, I have told you this before. I feel like. Well, yeah, I think in a sense, it's like the way I see it, at least. It's like
Mm,
the world is the world, and we're living in it. So it's like, sure, it could be Satan's realm, it could be whatever. Like, it's where we are now, and it's like
sure.
we have to follow the deputy authority. right?
Mm,
Whatever, I guess biblically. And so it's like, whether it's the government or wherever you live, it's like, okay. Like I feel like you
mm,
have to just do what it takes to survive in the world, I guess.
right.
Provided you're not, I guess, I don't know, crossing any lines or something. Like, you're not gonna
Gotcha.
be like a hired assassin or something. But
Mm,
like, live in the world, do what you want to do, like with the stuff you've done in the world. In a sense, like use the world for your own benefit. Like, use it to
right.
treat the young people, use it to treat like the brothers, right? I'm like
Sure.
you wanted to take out the young people like for Ritas, right?
Right.
Like the graduating seniors. Like,
Mm,
could you have done that if you didn't make money like in the world? It's like,
no, we
yeah.
can't.
So
Right.
it's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it makes sense where I'm at least right now. Like,
Actually, something I want to dig into a bit more. I feel like I don't know if generations past felt like this, but it's especially in our generation, it's like this seeking for a purpose. I mean, inherently it's good,
you
but
think
then
it's
it's
good?
like to seek a purpose.
Why do
I
you
think
think
it's
it's
good.
good?
Why it's good to seek a purpose?
Yeah.
Because outside of seeking a purpose, life would be meaningless,
Okay.
which is something we've talked about a lot.
Sure.
And then that's actually what I wanted to get into too. It's that some
Okay.
people, when you can't find a purpose, you do feel life is meaningless. And then it's like, well, what the hell? Why do anything? So that's part of why I want to become a teacher too. It's to at least spark some sense of purpose into students.
What
You
kind of
know,
sense of purpose would you spark?
I want to be both a math and history teacher eventually, but I want to start with math because I feel that's more applicable and grounded in truth, so to speak. Um,
Okay.
Financial, like I feel it could easily be applied to finance. There's a lot of talk about Americans living paycheck to paycheck. I think a large part of it is like people don't understand like percent interest, advantages of saving, how loans are like 24% or something, like if you understand the percent and the power of percent and how that quickly adds up, you will want to quickly pay off your credit card bills.
Mm.
You know what I mean? You will not want to, like, buying stuff on Amazon will then seem like a lot. It's just because we don't think in like sort of basic math terms, it's just like, it's just going on the credit card, I could deal with it later. But the financial world is very calculative based. And so I want them to be literate in that. And that I think that
So
starts
would
with
you like
algebra.
teach
Uh-huh.
like, oh, so you teach algebra?
It starts with algebra. Like I
But
leave
a lot of
yeah.
people like complain. Like a lot of like, I mean, high school, college students, whatever, like young adults complain like, wow, why didn't they teach us this in school? Like taxes
Uh
or like, like what you're talking about,
so
financial
I had
and
a I had a teacher in high school, Mr. Meekum. He actually did a math for a living course where he taught this stuff. But then the problem is no one takes it because everyone wants to take calculus and AP classes, right?
Did you take it?
I didn't take it. I didn't
Okay.
take math for a living. Yeah. But I had him as a teacher for math analysis. The one thing is like our curriculum is so stuffed, especially for honors classes, you don't have space outside to teach more stuff. And then the other side is like students are like, why didn't I learn this outside of school? Well, sometimes it's like you did learn it, you just didn't learn how to apply it, right? That's a
Hmm.
big thing. Like think about when you learn math. You love the problems where like it's like convert from radians to degrees. Simple, right? And then you're like, well,
Uh,
what's the point of this, And then it's like, all right, so let me give you a word problem. Oh no, the word problem's too hard, right? So then this is the contradiction. You want simple stuff. Okay, so I give you convert radians to degrees.
mm-hmm.
You don't like simple stuff because you want to see it applied. Well, I give you a word problem because that's how life occurs. Life doesn't give you a problem where it's like convert radians to degrees. It's a word problem, right? You have to be able to filter out information, figure out how to apply the thing you learned,
So how
right?
will you connect this to your students?
I always liked extra credit, so I don't know if they want to do, if they like give them a word problem and it's like extra credit on the next test or something like that. I don't know if like school will allow
Hmm.
me to. Like I have a lot of ideas of what to do, but then I don't know if school will actually allow me to. Of course, I always think that the administration will
I
like
mean, you're
pull
definitely
some
allowed to do
strings.
that, I think. But what I mean
Yeah,
is, how will you connect it to kids like because we had word problems. Like, sure, we complained about them, but all of us
yeah,
had word problems. So like,
yeah, that's right.
why do we still say stuff like,
Because the word problems are from textbook. I think that's one thing. I want to make up my I,
you'll
I
make
want to
your
make up
own?
I make up the word problems like everyone likes social media. Let's make a social media word problem. Like those word problems are like, oh, here's a lighthouse, the angle at which you view the light. Like who has anyone like have they seen a lighthouse in person? Like that's not applicable then. If you went like, let's go outside and measure the school flagpole using sine and cosine, then that makes a difference. And whoever gets the closest estimate gets 5 points on the next test. You know what I mean? Like,
That does sound fun.
right. And then you make it, maybe we won't have enough time, and so it's
Yeah,
just
I feel like
like,
that's what happens with a lot of I feel like a lot
so
of
then it's
teachers
like,
want to do that, but they don't have
yeah, they
time.
don't have time. Yeah, it's class time. You need to spend them teaching the basics, right? And so if that's the case, then that's just an extra credit assignment. Then those who really want to do it will do it. That gives students who maybe like, then it's like, how do you encourage the students who don't want to do it?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, because you said you wanted to spark something, right?
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's tough. I think that's one of the
I
hard
had to
things about being a
I don't have
teacher.
everything. Look, I don't have everything figured it out. One of my
Yeah.
inspirations is Assassination Classroom. It's like he comes into a
Oh,
classroom
watch that
where like,
show?
huh? Joseph had me watch it,
Oh
actually.
wow.
Joseph gets me into
That's
all
a
the
good show.
anime, all
That's
the
a really
stuff.
good show.
Yeah. And I do feel like, he went into a class where like they didn't want to they were the lowest of the low, right? That's a really good teacher. Of course, some parts of it are unrealistic, but
I
like,
mean,
I'm
yeah.
not a monster. I'm not a space monster from the moon, so I can't do anything about that. But I mean, yeah, that's kind of the long tangent to, do I disappoint my parents? I guess right now a bit. They won't say it, but I don't want to be in this state forever. You know what I mean?
I will say though
So
that being a teacher is one of the most noble things you can be, I think. Because
we'll see.
think about it. What are the things that make money, right? You could be a doctor, right?
Right, but
But
that's the other
you
that's
can
the
go
other
you
thing.
you can
Yeah.
be a doctor without you can be in the doc you can be a doctor for the money, right?
Yeah, sure.
You can't really be a teacher for the money. You're not making money as a teacher.
Unless you become an administrator, but then you don't even teach the kids directly,
Yeah,
right?
so then
So
that's a different thing. But
yeah,
yeah.
but noble if you're a good teacher, detrimental if you're a horrible teacher. Like
True.
I could name some teachers who I won't name on podcast, but they did not help me at all. And those
That's
actually
funny.
the teachers that have been in academia their whole lives.
Oh
And so
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
like they don't know anything outside of academia, and so that's it. It's
Hmm.
hard to, and they're the alpha dog, so they treat themselves as such. I know best. Like there was even one teacher, I didn't have this teacher, but then she literally told her students like, I'm not here to teach you, I'm here to guide you. And then all the classes would be was you would get in groups and teach each other biology. Like
Biology?
biology, yeah.
Did you
Like,
think you got did you learn? Did
well,
you
the
get
kids didn't
guided?
feel like they learned there. Well, I didn't have this teacher, but from what I heard from my
Oh,
friends, they were like, "Well, what the point of you even being here? We don't need you to guide that. We just learn on our own. Like, you're not helping at all. Like, literally, like I came in here so you could teach or lecture or something. But then if you don't even believe in lecturing, like, and you want us to just read the textbook, like, what a waste in a way. And it's like, well, this person has tenure, so you can't fire him. So, what are you gonna do? What's anyone gonna do
that's
really?
an interesting take on teaching.
I'm not here to teach. I'm here to guide. My friend literally said the word teach is in the word teacher. If you're
You're
not
not
here to teach, then I should just call you guider. You're not even, yeah,
guider.
yeah, guider. Like,
But I will say though, in practical application, think about how much you've had to study from textbook in college and stuff. It's
yeah, but you see
sometimes
that doesn't generate interest. That's just like the people who want to succeed will succeed. The people who want to try will try. Everyone else doomed to fail, or
yeah,
like you
that's
do
true
what you want.
actually. That's true.
That's
That's
just you're
true.
just feeding into the system.
That's
You're feeding
true.
off of the system actually, because you're just a passive actor. You're not actively helping.
That is true.
Yeah, but anyways, I hope I'd never become like that, but who knows what might happen. Yeah, maybe I see the light and then that's actually how you teach. But I think it's so impersonal. Literally, like the students, like when they say the word teach is literally the name teacher, like it literally shows like a lack of leadership there. Like they don't look up to this person at all. Like why would I ask you to guide
Mm,
me if you can't even teach me? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like it's just like a complete like negligence of duty. Like you'd be court-martialed for this if like you're in the military. Like this is your one job and you can't do. Like anyways, like luckily I didn't have this teacher, but there are people like that. I guess that's a long tangent, but
Huh. Yeah.
yeah. I want to go back to this point of meaninglessness of life.
Okay.
we talk about the horseshoe theory in politics, where if you go too far left, you become a totalitarian dictator, kind of like
Mm-hmm.
Stalin, you know. In the name of communism and equality, you will try to enforce those values upon society, create a society that way. But if you go too far to the right, you know, you get into hyper nationalism, which is like fascism, Hitler. That's also totalitarian. So it's like a horseshoe. In the end, you get totalitarian if you go too far left or too far right.
Uh-huh.
So we created a term called the horseshoe of nihilism, in that if you truly believe God, like I don't know, and you've made clear like this is not your view, but like if you really believe God has a purpose, then everything else is kind of meaningless. In
Yeah,
that, like, God has an eternal purpose, then really nothing else matters in a way. So that's nihilistic in the sense that anything outside of God is meaningless. But then from an atheist perspective, there is no God. Everything is meaningless because meaning is just something you make of life or something you get as you go. Like there is no
right.
intrinsic meaning of life. And so it's ironic that both the atheists and the most Christian or the most religious people reach the same conclusion in the end that life is meaningless. It's just
Sure.
that one is with God, life has meaning, and then it's just like I guess atheist is like you create your own meaning or something like that.
Yeah.
I guess we're in the middle, stuck in the middle right now.
So actually, I throughout this podcast, I think I've started to have a little bit different perspective because
Oh,
you know how I started talking about we're in the world now, right? So it's like you
uh-huh.
kind of got to do as like you gotta survive in the jungle, right? You know, you gotta find a job, make money, then use that
Sure,
money to
sure.
pay for the young people, pay for the brothers, like treat them for boba or something, right?
Okay, sure.
So it's kind of like you don't have to look at the world as meaningless, I guess, in a sense. I guess if you want to go purely theoretical, then yeah, like overarchingly,
Uh-huh.
logically, yeah, like there's just objectively there is no meaning besides God. But I think much more practically, it should actually you should find some kind of meaning in that because then it's kind of like how we talk about. I mean, in the Bible, right? I mean, man has three parts, right? Body, soul, spirit. So
Uh-huh.
it's like sure.
Right.
So obviously, spirit, it's for God.
Mm,
But your body and your soul, right? Like
mm,
if you just lay in your bed with life support, like you just hook yourself up just to just purely focus everything on trying to like just be with God, right? I
sure, sure.
I something tells me that God will not even appreciate that really. Like maybe if you have the purest of intentions, maybe that's just where you should maybe that's what you should do. But I realize like you have to like God, I mean, what is it? What's that verse in the Bible, right? Like preserve
May your spirit, soul, and
your
body be
ser
preserved
like
complete
yeah, like
without
preserve
blame.
yeah, that's all three of your parts, right? And so it's
Mm,
kind of like I think if finding meaning, some kind of meaning in your life, not necessarily outside of God, but just finding meaning in your life, if
mm,
that is something that helps you, that takes care of your soul in a sense,
mm,
then I feel like it's reasonable to say that's where you should start. Like maybe if the ultimate goal, is for I don't know, like yeah, you find God and then God, whatever, like shows you that nothing actually does matter. But I feel like, you're in the world now, and so it's like if that's gonna help you to, I guess, survive, it's like,
right.
you kind of gotta do what you gotta do in a sense, I guess. Kind of like
True.
music. Like music is something we see as like, music is good for the soul, right?
Mm, mm,
And it's like not necessarily spiritual. So it's like, does that
yeah.
mean music is bad? It's like, but it's still, but it's like, it can help to relax you. It can help to do all these
Mm.
things, right? So
Music is
I'll,
interesting too, because
ultimately,
it's like people complain in the music industry they don't make money off of it, right? Especially
mm,
if they go on Spotify or whatnot, they get ripped off or
sure.
whatnot for making music. But then we as listeners love Spotify because we can listen to all the music there,
Yeah.
right? I guess music is one of those things. It's like intrinsically something's valuable there because people go there to listen to it. But then it's like, it's hard to translate that into financial terms.
Because unless you
Yeah,
make it big, it's pretty
big,
hard to, yeah.
exactly. Yeah, music sometimes. can be used to kind of explain like spiritual stuff, I feel, because it's one of those abstract things. It's not like business or even teaching in the sense that you can see an impact. You can't see the
Mm.
impact of music on people, right? They could say it makes them happy, but then it's like, well, what is happy? You know, like how happy? Did it change your flip your day completely? Did it just get you through something, you know? Yeah, that's something I think is it's gonna need more study, or I don't even know if we'll ever figure it out. There's
Music
so much, yeah.
is a huge topic actually. Like there's
Uh-huh.
so much you can talk about in
Another
music.
podcast we could do on this. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But like
yeah.
there's so much I want to talk about with you, but there's still a lot of things we need to hit on, but we're running out of time. So is there
Okay.
one last thing you want to talk about? I'll leave it to you.
Um, one of the topics you wrote is can I get to 150? Is that 150 views or
People on the
people?
podcast. Yeah,
150
individual
people on the
people.
podcast?
That's Dunbar's number. If I break it, then like
Right, right,
in
right.
a way like I
Goodness.
transcend averageness. Does that make me exceptional? I mean, I don't know. Cause like even now, like, you know, sometimes I hang out with you on the weekend. I'm just like, yeah, I don't feel like posting this week. And then it's like podcast is not being posted because I spend time with other people in person,
Oh no,
you
okay.
know? But then
We're
it's
holding you
like,
back.
no, but see, I don't want people to think like that. Cause then if I tell people that, then it's like, oh no, we shouldn't talk to Austin because then I'm holding him back from getting to 150. But then will any of those 150, if I do reach 150, will any of those connections mean anything? Because they all think they're holding me back, you know?
So
So it's
does this have to do with the you're spending time with people outside of doing podcasts?
getting to 150. Does it
Yeah,
have to do with that? No, it's more like is it even feasibly possible for a human to have 150 connections or people they know well, you know?
I think it's possible for you to do it.
It's possible.
Do you, well,
Yeah. I'm
did you
yeah.
ever try making that list of people you know?
Yeah, I'm still having trouble breaking 100.
Oh, you're still at what are you at?
Yeah. Like 70s, 80s right now.
Would you podcast with your parents?
Yeah, they're all on the list. I would
Oh, they're
do
on
it
the
with them.
list. Oh,
Yeah, my
okay,
mom
okay.
doesn't want to do it. My dad's gonna do it, but then I don't know. We always joke in our family. It's like once my dad comes on, people are gonna really cancel Austin because some of the views my dad has are really, really extreme. I guess by our
Uh,
societal terms.
that's funny.
But like I can kind of reconcile. That's why like I don't really think any view is extreme because
That's
like
like
I've kind of heard it. I've kind of heard it all
you've heard
really.
it all.
I've heard it all. Like nothing really surprises me
Wow.
about views anymore. You could tell me you're like like not that my dad's a neo-Nazi, but like you could tell me a neo-Nazi and I'll try to talk you through like why
What?
that's bad. You know, you could tell me you're a communist and we could have a conversation too. Like honestly, this point I just want to talk to people and see how they get to where they get, you know, like why they have the conclusions they have. It's very
Wow.
interesting.
That is interesting.
So no, it's the quantity over quality issue. It's like the more people I spend time with, the less time I'll have spend with each person. But then I don't
Yeah.
want this to impact the relationships I already have. And so I already feel this kind of tear already.
I will
Uh,
say I think that's generally why like personally I value like one-on-one relationships much more just because it's like they feel much more meaningful than like because like
yeah,
trying to maintain like a friend group can also be like, are you gonna meet with like every single individual in this friend group? Like how do you actually view each of these individuals? It's like
right, right. And so I think that's the problem I have with groups too. It's that, you know, like me and you, we've talked about some controversial stuff today, you know, especially when we hit on the topic of marriage, you know, I feel that like, you know, if there was a third person in a group, they might go like, you know, that you can't say that or like, you know, and then it's like that ruins the pace of the conversation in a way because then it's like, oh, then you have to be sensible to this person's sensibilities and all
but
that.
that I think that kind of just I think that kind of just goes into knowing a person though, because if you like, what if you just found like three other Ethans, right? Then you can
What if
have
I
that
found three
conversation.
other Ethans?
Or
I
three other
wish I could find three
Austins.
other Ethans.
Then
I
you
don't
could
think you could
just,
find. I don't think it's that easy. Like, like three other Ethans.
I mean,
No,
you could
that's
talk like, I mean, like think about like,
like
oh, actually, okay, actually, I was gonna say
like
Clayton.
you,
I was gonna say
Alan, and
Clayton. No,
Clayton.
no, but I
Okay,
realized that Clayton actually has different views with that, right?
with
Anyway,
what?
with that
With
controversial stuff.
no, that's fine. Like you and I have different views about stuff too, and then we all disagree. Like there's so much stuff we don't agree on, like that we didn't talk on podcast too. You know, and
That's
then
true, yeah.
but Same thing with Clayton. Like we don't agree on everything either, but like we
Okay,
still get through
well,
to each other.
I'll say like I feel like it's a cool goal to have though, and it's like at least knowing me personally, like
Kind of
you
wanting
know,
to prove Shepard wrong.
oh, what did Shepard say?
Shepard was the one that told me about Dunbar's number.
Oh,
He
really?
actually heard his brother Peter was speaking about it at a conference that I didn't go to, and then he was telling me, you know about Dunbar's number, Austin? I think you'd be interested in it. Yeah, and then it's like
Oh, word.
prioritizing people in our life. You know, it's like even Jesus could only hang out with 3 of his disciples more than other 12. He had
Oh,
12 disciples,
wow.
but then he had Peter, James, and John go up with him to the mountain. So even
I
Jesus prioritized
Wow,
who
I
he was
didn't
with.
even think about that. Like
Yeah, I
Jesus.
mean like, but then
Actually,
I don't like prioritizing people,
I actually
honestly.
think that's facts though.
Facts, you have to prioritize people. Yeah,
No, well, it's not even that you have to, but you will. Like
you will prioritize
you have
people.
no choice in a sense. Okay, like okay, real. This will be the last thing we talk about, maybe, because I actually I've had this conversation a lot with people in college, and a lot of them didn't like what I was saying until I really broke it down, and they were like, okay, I guess you're kind of right. But because I don't, again, this is kind of like the bubble theory. Like, I don't think this is like, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, and maybe your brain could just, maybe you just think about things completely
No,
differently.
I don't think you're accusing me. It's
But
just I don't like it.
I think most people it happens to happen this way. Like it's not really like I guess you can choose in a sense if you want to, but like there's gonna be a list of people, right? All the people you know in your
Mm,
circle, right?
sure.
You only have 7 days in a week.
Yeah.
So let's assume you have a full-time job, right?
All right.
But suddenly over half the week is gone, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
oh, assuming you sleep a healthy amount, like let's say
Mm,
8 to 10
right.
hours.
Right.
Um, so suddenly you realize like you actually have very limited time. And
Mm,
so
yeah.
it's like, and when they say like you'll make time for the ones you love, like if
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you can't say, oh, I don't have time, because if you really cared about it, you would make time for it, right?
Yeah. True.
And so
True.
I started thinking about that a lot. Like sometimes when people have asked me like, oh, you want to go to Six Flags or something? And I'm kind of like, I mean, I'd rather just get like food or something. It's like I don't really care that much about going to Six Flags. And it's like,
Mm,
and then
mm,
people are kind of like, and so I'll say like, yeah, I kind of just want to say that I don't like, and I'll tell them straight up, hey guys, like I feel like I don't have time, and like obviously I could probably make time, but
mm.
I'd much rather just get food with you guys, or like just stay in and talk rather than go to Six Flags. It's like
Right.
I feel like it's not, I don't love Six Flags enough to make time for it right now.
Oh, this is
Um,
something. This is something I want to talk about too. But again, we're running out of
yeah, and
time.
so
But
basically, so you just had this list, right? And so
uh-huh.
it's like you can only hang out with someone on this list like X amount of times in the week, right?
But see,
Let's say
that's the thing. I don't want to form a list because
no,
that's
no,
what I
no.
feel.
But okay,
Yeah.
so what I'm saying is it's not like you're actively making a list.
Some people do that. That's the problem.
Okay,
It's like,
sure. Okay,
yeah.
let's say some people do, but we're not, we're talking about people who like just it happens inherently, right? Let's say like
Right.
you
If you
hung
let
out,
it
okay,
in,
you hung
like,
out with
okay.
Alan,
Uh-huh.
Isaac, me in 1 week, right?
Sure.
In a given week.
Wow, you already know
But
my.
suddenly you don't have like suddenly that's 3 spots taken in those days, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's say in a given week, or maybe
Mm,
given let's say a 2 week period, right?
mm,
Let's say you
mm.
want to hang out with like 12 people, but you
12.
work. So and you will have to do chores one
Yeah,
day,
that's right.
you'll have to clean or something.
That's right.
So let's say you only have 6 spots, right? So if you hung out with
Mm,
me, blah blah blah, me, Isaac, Clayton, whatever, Alan and them, right? Then in the
mm.
next week, so will you then go like, okay, actually, oh wait, Ethan asked me to hang out again, but I still need to hang out with 6 other people. So it's like, what
Yeah.
are you gonna do?
So you see, like that's where I like tap starting to analyze too much. You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
then I'm like, I kind of just want to leave it to that week. You know, like this week I'm not talking to anyone new. I guess you're this week's podcast. You know what I mean? Like I only do
Sure.
one podcast a week. On like that's what I aim for. I don't want to do more. I don't want to do less because that way it's a consistency, right? But you're right. I only have one slot. Who am I going to talk to? Am I going to expand or reinforce? You know, I just think of an expand, reinforce. I don't even think in terms of people really, because if I
Okay.
start picking and
Yeah,
choosing, I
yeah,
start
yeah.
analyzing too much. I start. It's not a natural process anymore.
You
You
don't think
know,
it's natural though?
I want it to be natural and like this, I just naturally start doing it without thinking about it. I don't want to think this through like, huh, these are the 3 people I'm gonna prioritize. And then like and
See,
then
that's
it's
really
like,
interesting, Austin, because
what?
you are someone that likes to analyze, and suddenly for this, you're not willing to analyze. When I feel
Yeah,
like
is it
it's
a double
something,
standard?
I feel like it is a double standard because for this particular thing, it's very easy to analyze. Like it's very easy to just look at it, and because you look at the time you spend with people, and you look at the time you don't spend with other people, and it's very easy to just tell where your priorities lie.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. It's kind of like I don't want to. It's like SAT score, right? I actually don't like it because SAT score is supposed to be like kind of like a bell curve, right? And there's are some exceptional people,
Right.
right? But what it's become is like you get measured by the score. Like so
Mm,
you want to take classes to up your score. Somehow it makes you a better person. I personally don't think it does. But
yeah.
you know, you measure if it was just there and no one thought about it and it's just like, well, I just do my best and that's it. Then that would have some meaning. But I think that meaning is lost now because we think about it. And so same thing
Hmm.
here is like with 150. If I make a list of people and then it's like, huh, these are the people I'm gonna prioritize, then I think some type of meaning is lost there. Then people can go like, you know, then you might look at me and go like, huh, Austin's just spending time because I'm on his priority list, you know, like, ooh, you
Don't
know,
worry,
like,
I won't get a big head like that.
but
Oh, I'll try
no,
not
but
to.
it's just fake kind of. It's really fake,
It
really.
feels fake.
It feels fake because then it's like, oh, I'm only on
No,
Austin's
that's
priority
not
list, and then
fair,
for people,
Austin.
and then
Once you
people
start
who are not on
analyzing,
the
it feels
list.
fake.
Wait, what? No, you can
Sorry.
analyze. You can totally like. I think you can do this
No,
for
no, no,
me.
sorry. Finish your thought. Finish your
Like,
thought.
then people who are like, oh, I haven't made Austin's podcast 20 and above, so I guess I'm not his priority. You know, that's so fake. Like, that's not my goal. Like, that creates more problem than solves in a way
Oh,
for
isn't
me.
that interesting, Austin? Once you
Are you trying to tear
overanalyze,
apart my
Austin,
analysis?
once you overanalyze something, suddenly it feels fake and almost meaning, almost like it's not fair, right?
Either
Why?
I don't like that tone of sarcasm in your voice, because
Well, it's
like,
just because whenever you've always tried to analyze everything, and I feel like you're realizing now if you analyze too much, you start seeing the negatives in it. Like you always say, I want to think about it. I want to think more about this, more about the meaning behind it, right? Like you're talking about church, right? You're like, okay, we're getting told these things by this brother. Okay,
mm, mm,
it doesn't apply to me. Why? And you're that's you analyze it. You're going like, okay,
mm,
wow, okay, there's web of doctrine, there's all these things. Like why none of these things work? I need to see go further. I need to see the reason why. But then for this, you're like, it's you don't even have to go that far. All you have to look at is, okay, I hung out with these people last week. I'm hanging out with these people this week. I'm not gonna hang out with these people in a few weeks. So who are you gonna see? It's not even like you don't have to think that deep about it. It's very simple actually.
mm. Maybe eventually I have to resort to the analysis model just to like manage my life better. Because right now my life is not managed well. You know how like I used to write things down like what I'm gonna do today.
Oh yeah.
I don't do that anymore. I don't know if I'm gonna
Mm.
eventually get back because you know I'm kind of in a relaxed state right now. You know, I don't know if that's a good thing
I
because
think it's good to relax.
if you're in a relaxed state, you don't have to plan your day out like that. You know, but maybe one day I'm gonna have my back against the wall and I'm gonna have to resort to that model. You know, and then I will have to start prioritizing people and like, huh, this week I can only talk to Ethan. You know, but then it's just I
Yeah,
always
it
like
feels
this.
bad, right? Feels bad to analyze.
Hey, it's not the analyzing part, you know?
It's not?
It's not the analyzing part. I don't think so. I'm just trying to find the words to
Okay.
put
All right.
it.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me know.
You just want to turn it into like,
Okay.
oh, Austin, they finally like found the chink in your
No,
Achilles
let me
heel of
know. No, no, no. Okay.
analysis.
Because I've had this conversation with a lot of people, and it's like it
Because like I'll
feels
give you
horrible to hear because you're like, no, like I don't want to think that I'm prioritizing people, right? But if you want to just if you want to like if you just think about it, it's like it's not necessarily your fault. Like it just happens. Like
yeah,
that is how it works.
I'm okay if it just happens, but
No, I'm
I'm
saying
not
like
gonna analyze it to make it happen.
but
You
see,
know what
no,
I mean?
no, 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 no. But what I'm saying is, if you're not analyzing it, you're kind of purposely blind. Like now that we're talking about it, if you're not
Mm.
willing to go further, you're kind of purposely blinding yourself to what's happening then, right? Which is kind of just as bad as you like trying to analyze stuff in church and not seeing a result that you like.
No, but I think that's different because here it's like I'm actually experiencing, like I see the problem now. You know what I mean? The problem is like I see the problem in church, but we don't talk about it. Or it's
But right now, you're not willing to talk about it.
I'm willing to talk about it with you. I'm not willing to talk
No, I'm
about it.
saying you're not willing to talk or think about how you are prioritizing people because that is what happens.
I'm not willing to talk about prioritizing people because I think that's what happens.
We can leave this open-ended. We can
Yeah.
because
But I
I
think
didn't realize
like
how
I
much
think
time
I think
passed.
something yeah, I think something with church is like when you talk about web of doctrines, right? Web of doctrines is my theory that it's like if I go to a meeting, it's like it's good, right? We tell people you go to a meeting, you get watered, you get nourished by people, and then that encourages your personal growth with the Lord. But then you go to the meeting and sometimes you're just really not feeling it, and then people tell you, you shouldn't come to the meetings just to feel watered. You should bring something. It's kind of like a picnic. Everyone brings something. And so everyone feels better that way. And then I'm like, but wait, you just told me to come to the meeting to feel better. Now you're telling me I should bring something to the meeting. So I'm just not going to go to the meeting. So then the doctrine reverts back to you should come to a meeting to feel better. And so you're trapped in this circle of no matter if you go to a meeting or not, if you don't go to a meeting or not, you're always in the wrong. That's what I analyze in church. You
But the
know what I
thing is,
mean?
that analysis only goes as far as you're willing to go. Like, if you yourself are not willing to, like, how do I say this?
Tough
You're
topics are always hard to express.
like you're
Yeah.
willing to analyze all those dynamics. Like those are dynamics. Like
Mm,
I mean, you've heard it before, right? Okay, how's your personal time with the Lord, right? It's like, okay, if your personal time's not good, then it's probably very likely your meeting life will also not be that good. But you're saying it as it's like a web, right? Like, okay, so you know, if my personal time with the Lord is bad, or they're saying the blame always comes back to you, right? It's like,
right.
oh, okay. But the thing is, like, I feel like that's one of those things that's like you've analyzed deep enough where
Mm,
you found the result that you don't like. So you're just that's why you don't like it anymore because you've analyzed so deep into it without thinking about, I guess, the simplicity of it, the simple, practical, like just enjoyment of things. And maybe you haven't found the
mm,
enjoyment in a while, and that's a kind of a separate matter. But like
mm,
you've
mm, mm.
analyzed far enough where you've gone past this, you've complicated things, you've
Right.
went past a simple enjoying kind of thing. And what I'm saying about the friends and prioritizing, it's
Mm,
simple, right? You just go hang out with people. You just, you do what you enjoy. It's simple that way. But once you start analyzing and complicating it, suddenly you realize, okay, I don't want people to be thinking like, oh, I'm prioritizing these people. I don't want people to be saying like, oh wait, how come I don't get to be on Austin's podcast, right? You're right now. You're just it's simple, it's fun. You're in the moment of it. You're just enjoying like doing
mm,
these podcasts with people, right? Do you see how
right.
I like to me those two things
Yeah,
are very similar? Like,
I see your point. I see your point. Like, okay, then to be like, I do keep like I told you about the spreadsheet I keep, right? I feel like that's enough already. I'm like, it's not like I'm not doing no analysis. I'm still doing some analysis. It's just not like the way you put it. It's like I had 3 slots, or like I guess for me it's like 1 slot this week.
we can go deeper into
Gonna
that another
yeah,
time. But
yeah. That like no,
my main point is just I'm seeing that you're realizing that when you overanalyze past the point of, it just happened, just let it happen, the simple enjoyment of things, you realize that behind the scenes suddenly you're not liking it so much once you look so deep into it.
but I think podcast is something I do solely on my own. Like in a church setting, it's not just on your own too,
No, I'm not talking
right?
about just
Right.
podcast. I mean, I'm talking about just, connecting with people. Like,
No, but
oh,
the thing with podcasts is like it's kind of like you can kind of filter who you want to talk to in a way, and then it's like it sounds bad to say,
it does
right?
sound
But
bad to say.
it sounds bad to say, but it's truth. It's not like I'm getting like there's people I know that I haven't asked to come on yet, right? And so do have to think about like, huh? And I also have to think about what are we going to talk about, right? It's like a
Sure.
potential list of topics. Like we could just go on the fly and just start talking. I haven't done that yet with anyone, but maybe if you want to, we could do that. But it's that, and then also, uh, like in church, you could get taken advantage of,
You don't
and then
think friends okay, sure, go ahead, keep
like
going.
podcast, I'm in charge in a way. If you're gonna make a
Oh, okay.
mess,
Well,
you know what I mean?
when I say overanalyzing, I'm not solely talking about podcasts. This is just podcast is just one of the facets of your like social relationships with
Because
people
okay, like
because
podcast,
that's
like
how
I
you
want
talk
to
to
do
people.
it. That's why I do it, right? Church, it's like I don't want to do this, but then like I see a need for it, and then suddenly it becomes something that's associated with me.
Hmm.
Like I'm the planner. I'm the go-to guy to fix something when something goes
So the
wrong.
thing is, like, to me, like that's just something that happens like with normal relationships than friends and stuff
Well, this
too.
easy. That's absent from podcasts. So that's why I don't have to analyze. That's why I have to analyze church and not analyze like podcasts,
Oh
because
no
like
no
that
no no
doesn't
no!
happen
I'm
in
not saying
podcasts.
solely podcast though. That was what you kind of brought. I was mainly talking about just your friends and people you can see, because
Oh,
you can't ignore that. But you're
okay,
I was
fair.
kind of going with the podcast route because you were just kind of saying something about like, oh yeah, I'm not always gonna like, I'm not gonna include certain people and like blah blah blah, and it sounds bad. But I
Right,
was just
right.
I was mainly saying like, because we were kind of on the more general topic of like, I don't want to say that I'm prioritizing these 3 people on my friends list rather than these other people.
Yeah, right,
Right? But I'm
right.
saying like that is what happens, and like if you don't see it that way, I feel like you're purposely not analyzing further, because you don't have to go that deep to see that. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And
I
that's why those 2 things, I feel like you saw it when I explained it. And
I do
you're
see it.
with the
Yeah.
podcast thing, you're right, like that is you.
Mm,
It's a personal project even for you, that
mm,
you're bringing people in, and no one can really complain about that. Like
mm.
if that just doesn't, if you don't fit the guise of your personal project, then they don't fit the lines or whatever. So
Right,
it's like
right,
they don't have to be on it.
right,
Whatever the bounds you decide. You're right for the podcast thing.
right.
I was mainly talking about
Friends,
the
prioritizing
friends
for
and
who you
analyzing
spend with
analyzing
friends.
these dynamics kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we
So
should
no. I do.
yeah,
I do. Yeah, we gotta go
we
more
got
deep into that. We're
I
out
didn't
of
real
time. Yeah,
sorry, yeah,
yeah.
this is a
But no,
super
this
long
could be a whole. This could be a whole. This might
podcast on
be
its own.
a whole other podcast on yeah, friends and relationships getting to 150.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but thank you,
but
yeah, thanks for inviting me.
of course, it's
Yeah.
great talking to you. You might have broken the record for longest
Oh
podcast, but
man,
we will see after the edits
that's not a
whether
good
whether
thing.
it might be good. Who knows? Yeah. All
It's
right.
okay.
Well,
It's kind of nice because it'll be kind of like a
time
journal,
capsule.
like
Yeah.
what, yeah, time capsule, like you said.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's gonna be a year from now. It's hard to think about it, but
All right.
all right. See you, Ethan.
Thank you,
Bye.
Austin.